Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, friends, we talk about PSA's recent updates, some big news coming into the hobby, and in today's video, after waiting a few days, doing a little bit more research, and getting a good understanding of some of the technology they have just acquired, I wanted to throw a video out there, help break everything down for you and bring you up to speed on what I think is going to be probably one of the biggest single movements we've seen a card grading company make over the 2020 to 2021 time period. Obviously, there's been tons of stuff going on when it comes to card grading. We've had new entrants to the market. We've had price increases to help slow down the rate of cards, which have had very little to no effect. And PSA has even gone as far as to suspend certain card grading services as of the end of March in order to help combat just the inundation of modern Pokemon cards and other modern cards from different hobbies that they have seen. So in today's video, let's go ahead and break some of that stuff down. The one thing I will say that's been pretty impressive is I gotta say, I'm really happy with the way PSA has sort of shaped up, especially as of, March 2021. Here's the truth of the matter. Many people know that I am not sponsored by any person or company, and obviously I feel like that's important to disclose, especially when talking about something so subjective. So, for the record, obviously, I'm not sponsored by PSA or one of their competitors. And some YouTubers have become sponsored by CGC. And obviously that does sometimes create a little bit of a conflict. I mean, it's not really if you clearly disclose and present objective facts, but especially when there is a element of subjective judgment that is made on cards, it can obviously have an impact on the way that the video comes off. So, in full disclosure, the only reason why I'm so tough on PSA is because I really do want them to succeed. Many of you know that I have many PSA cards, and in fact, there are no other card submissions on this video, on this channel. Everything goes to PSA and everything comes back to PSA. And my high-end cards are also all PSA. I have 2 BGS cards, and I think right now they're maybe worth, like $8,000. The only reason that is, by the way, is because they were part of a very large trade. But other than that, all of my cards are PSA graded, and so I really want the best for them because as long as they do well, so too will any card that they have graded. So that's just a little bit of a disclosure about why I'm so tough on PSA and obviously why I want them to succeed. Now, given all that, as I mentioned before, I'm super proud of everything they've kind of done in the past, 2-ish months, because really it's gone pretty much in line with what I'd been chirping about. And fans of the channel know that I've actually been doing PSA update videos with like random frequency, but whenever news is big enough to make a video out of, I usually do go ahead and make a video and usually get on my soapbox and start complaining for some period of time. So shockingly, I'm not doing that today because I'm really happy with some of the stuff that they've done. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the April President's Letter right down here. This was issued on 3/30/21. Obviously, we're getting towards the end of April 2021, so now's a good time to kind of take a look at some of this stuff and see what they have said. So this is from Steve Sloan, our boy, the president of Professional Sports Authenticators, and homeboy had some pretty big news to share as to why, they might shake the hobby up a little bit right now. And so they quite literally said, hey, we're just shutting down card submissions for the foreseeable future. They're the first grading company to do this, and I think it's actually a very mature decision to make. For the most part, turnaround times were continuing to get worse. And mind you, PSA had actually upped their prices in an attempt to slow card submission downs. And yet, for some reason, card submissions were continuing at the volume or were continuing at a volume that was still alarming, even if it was declining. And so as a result, it's an unpleasant conclusion, especially after the March 1st price increase, but we're just not taking any more cards. Now, since this time last year, PSA has gone on record saying business is too good. You know, we're simply unequipped to handle how blessed we are with the amount of business. Great problem to have, but from a business perspective, it's kind of like, wait, what? But I appreciate this. Now, many of you who want to submit to PSA might say, oh, this stinks, but hear me out. Obviously, their submission services will resume in the future, and so you have to wait a few months. Whether or not you agree with whether or not you should wait, the good news is that you could just wait and grade with PSA. The other thing you can do is choose one of the market alternatives, so BGS or CGC, and if you want, pay $300 and go Super Express. I mean, if you're that pressed to grade the cards, you might as well just pay the money and get your cards graded with PSA. The other thing is that for anyone out there that's saying it's unfair that you have to wait because they've chosen to stop all accepting of submissions, bear in mind that you may be waiting 2 to 3 months until certain services resume, but many of us have been waiting 6 to 8 to 12 months for our submissions, and so we already have cards with them that are still in the process of being assessed and graded. And bear in mind, the longer they're out there, the greater the chances are that they'll be damaged, that they'll be bent, that they'll be destroyed in one way, shape, or form. Technically, a black hole could open up under the place where they store all the cards, and if it's not something so dramatic, it could be a flood, it could be a partial fire, it could be some sort of collapse of a structure that causes some sort of damage to some submissions. So bear in mind that there are other people in the hobby, and we've had our stuff out there for quite a while. I'm speaking for myself as well as others because I've had stuff out there since October, and only one of my 2 orders so far has entered the grading process, and it's a very small 4-card order. So for what it's worth, I'm happy because it's a mature business decision. It's unpopular, it's unpleasant, but it's effective and efficient, and it shows that they truly value the customers they have because they really are trying to handle the backlog. And then when they're in a comfortable position, I'm sure there'll be some sort of decisioning that goes on, and a decision will get made about slowly starting to accept orders again, which is pretty neat. The other thing that they say is, in the past, I've chirped out their website for not giving specifics, and here we go with the specifics. So again, thanks for listening, I guess. Our goal is to bring back all suspended services by July 1st. Today, it's 1 week till May, so, let's just call it May. Let's round up and call it May 2021. It's all of May and all of June. Their goal is to bring it all back by July 1st. So, again, not the worst thing ever because it's 2 full months. Mind you, people who've submitted cards have been waiting 8+ months. And at least you have a period of time to look forward to. For many of you, I've seen questions about should I wait or should I submit. The good news is that A, you don't really have an option if you want to go PSA, and the other good news is at least you have a time frame, right? So if you were looking or hunting for additional cards that you wanted, you now have a time frame in which you need to buy those cards if you wanted to include them in your next submission. Again, I think this is a good thing. I'm happy that there is a specific date in mind. It's very measurable, and now you have an estimated amount of time that you need to wait so that you could make arrangements that don't impact your collecting goals, right? Again, I think stuff like this is what I truly value because it gives us the specifics we need to make informed decisions. So something that was painfully lacking in prior communications from PSA, but something that I do have to say, they are doing quite a good job of kind of impressing me so far. The next thing is that, they do give some stuff out for the Collectors Club members, so, you're automatically extended to the value of the, to match the duration of the value suspensions, so they're not just screwing you over, because that's one of your major perks as a member is that you do get value services, and so as long as those are suspended, that's how long your, membership will be extended for. So that's pretty neat. This way you'll still have the full 12 months. Mine expired sometime before that all this happened, so it doesn't impact me per se. I'm just waiting until everything resumes and goes back to normal. Then I'll buy another membership for a full year. Here's another thing. PSA's growth capacity has, remains in full effect. Again, in the past, they were like, oh yeah, bro, we're going to try to grow, bro. And they never said how, why, specifics, anything like that. Finally, we have information. We recently added an additional 58,000 square feet on top of the 62,500 square feet we added a few months ago, furthering our ability to hire and process orders. So this means in total we've seen over 100,000 square feet of additional space added. Now, I could, do the absolute most and say I want to see a circle chart showing me percentages and saying how much of this is going to go towards warehousing, how much of this is going to go towards storage, how much of this is going to go towards actual grading, because, there is an argument to be made here that it doesn't matter how much space you add, it matters how much capacity for grading is getting added. But you know what? I appreciate the specifics, and I also think that in the grand scheme of things, it sounds like 100,000 square feet is going to be a pretty significant, investment and a pretty significant growth. And I, again, think that that is definitely going to help them with their turnaround times. In my experience, your average 3,000 to 4,000 square foot house, about 2 to 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a full garage. In my experience and my life, I've seen those types of houses be somewhere in the 3,000 to 4,000 square foot range. So, even if we assume 4,000 square feet and do the math, we're looking at easily 25 to 35 full houses. Mind you, I don't have a calculator in front of me, so I'm not really doing math right now. I'm just kind of guesstimating. But imagine adding 25 to 35 houses worth of space. Even if you give 10 or 15 to holding submissions, and I don't think that's the case. If PSA was smart, they would simply rent out auxiliary space and keep it there. What's really cool and what's really interesting about that is that, 4 to 5 houses worth of graders grading cards, that's pretty impressive. And if anybody's ever seen what PSA's grading areas look like, it's very, very small. Maybe 18 square feet of space per grader. And then, additional space on the sides. So I think this is a huge step in the right direction. All this added capacity is going to make one gigantic campus in California. And again, super impressive, because I genuinely do believe that they're really going to benefit from that in the long run. The other thing, amazingly, today we stand at 783 people strong and are growing, daily. And look at that. Another thing that I complained about, give us point of reference data. So in January 2020, they were at 421. Now they're at 783. The good and the bad, we have a number, we have a general direction. We have to assume some of those are graders. The bad news, they don't give us a specific number, but hey, that's okay. You're getting better. That's all we can ask for. And then finally, but not least, PSA is also working on physical office expansion to new international markets, and for the first time, new grading locations in the United States. According to my sources, I have heard upstate New York will be the new spot. The reason for that is because they want one on the east and one on the west coast of the United States. Now, assuming it's anywhere in the United States, which they quite literally just said in the highlighted section that I have for you, here's the benefits of that. In addition to all of the space that they have added, they will have an additional facility. California and New York, I think, are weird spots, but obviously California is where these guys were sort of based out of from the beginning, right? From the get-go. New York, outside of the urban jungle that is New York City, it's very much like any other part of the country. Tons of space, very large amounts of real estate. And so I do think with PSA's recently found riches from all of the business they've been doing, I do think they'll be able to buy something very, very cost efficient upstate, and they'll be able to add a gigantic campus over there. And then when they add that gigantic campus, guess what? You're going to have the ability to send cards to one of two areas. Maybe they'll have, expertise in one location or the other, and so it could be really beneficial. There's tons of different ways that they could play about it, and I think either way that you go about doing it, or whether you accept all submissions at all locations, it's still so beneficial, because for years now, I've been submitting to PSA since 2013, and I know tons of people since the 90s. We're talking about one location that handles everything. And so you have to imagine how efficient this place was. Mind you, PSA has only had that one location forever. They have an office in New Jersey, but they accept submissions but don't complete grading over there. And then what's crazy is that on top, whether you like PSA or not, objectively, they're still the largest grading company in the world. And so what's insane about that is that, places like Beckett and CGC have tried, they have multiple locations, they've done all this, and PSA still remains on top. So can you imagine how successful PSA could be if they add in all this additional space? And here's the real trick of the matter. They need to use it efficiently. But again, very promising stuff, because for what it's worth, they're now clearly showing their commitment to adding this stuff, and they're being more transparent, which is, as a customer, the most reassuring thing we could have asked for. Of course, they are still saying, hey, if you want to, get a job, please feel free to let us know. And then, this announcement puts our existing customer first. I agree. Thank you, Mr. Sloan. Much appreciated. Now, the other big news actually just came out a couple of days ago, and this is the acquisition of Genamint to integrate next-generation technology into the grading process. So what is Genamint? So here's the acquisition announcement that basically, has like your very good stonks graph, which I appreciate. And, they say a couple of different things. They actually took in the founder of Genamint and made him the new VP of Product Management. And, Genamint was its own technology company, so they have tech and operations people who are going to be joining forces with PSA, and they're going to be doing machine visioning. So, in the past, I've actually complained about PSA because they made a big hoopla about their new robotics segment. I don't even know what to call it. And upon further investigation, it was found out to be a robotic arm. So basically an arm that grabs your package, puts it in the right place and scans it, and then it's probably connected to the internet. So once it scans, it uploads the scan to the database and checks a box, which sends an automated email. So it's actually pretty cool because, it's a robotic arm. Technically, it saves a human from manually grabbing the box, scanning it, and then sorting it appropriately, based on whether or not it's Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, baseball, basketball, whatever have you. Now, a robot basically does that, which is equal parts comforting and also kind of impressive because obviously it's not the easiest thing to implement, but in the grand scheme of things, RPA, robotic process automation, is very rule-based, and so it's a very logical place for PSA to invest. My issue is that their shipping and handling department has never been the problem. As far as I've been a customer, I've never seen people complaining because PSA takes 10 years to go to their P.O. box. PSA gets to their P.O. box every single day, grabs your package. Within like 2 days of arriving, it's usually scanned, and at least it's with PSA. Usually takes a little bit longer for them to open the box and manually enter everything in, which is obviously very annoying. And then the second thing is that you don't pay PSA to, process your order. The reason you even do business with PSA is because you want to grade cards. And so any investment, in my opinion, for such advanced technology like RPA should have been done immediately at the card grading level. That was my issue back then, and it seems like that has been addressed in this particular announcement. So Genamint looks to be a machine visioning technology where basically a scan of the card, and here is their actual website with a YouTube video, which I will link down below for everyone, by the way. And if you look at it, what ends up happening is it looks like they have a scan of the card. The card is then viewed, quote unquote, by the machine or the computer. And then the computer goes ahead and renders grades based on what it observes. So if I click through the video without playing it, sooner or later what you'll see is right here, you'll have the grades for the surface, the corner, the overall, the edges, the centering, the eye appeal. And if you look, there's actually little like widgets down here that show you the centering, the hotspots. And as you can see, they've actually clicked on this and they can show you can see that the card is now blue. The machine is actually highlighting what it is detecting as a defect on the card. So this is incredibly, incredibly powerful technology, mainly because it's going to help apply PSA's grading standards so much more efficiently as well as so much more capably. Can you imagine a situation where this technology is scaled to all different types of orders at PSA? And here's the thing. Since PSA bought this means that this technology is no longer available to their competitors. So Genamint probably had to sign some sort of non-competition thing where, Mr. Kevin or any of his, lead data scientists also said, we're not going to compete with PSA. Like, we're now owned by PSA, period, end of story. This technology is the sole property of. Now, could someone with similar expertise come along and create, Genamint 2.0 or a different type of machine visioning software? Sure, and other stuff does exist out there. But for the most part, when it comes to the world of trading card grading, Genamint has been one of the leaders, and for the most part, they're going to be hard to compete with because they have this stuff literally down to a science. So, for those who don't know, algorithms, which is probably what is feeding this machine visioning technology, work in a very simple way. They get better the more you train them. And in order to train them, what you have to do is you have to just expose them to different data points. So for example, you take a PSA card, you let the machine scan it. It's already graded, so we know what a human grader would have given the grade. And then at that point, the only other thing you have to do is compare the grade that it got via human to the grade it got via a machine visioning program. And by comparing the two, you can then create different rule sets. So you can see which cards the machine and the human agree on, disagree on, and when they disagree, why they disagree. That is how they're going to have to train this software. And I understand that Genamint already has some very functional software, which is really neat, right? The algorithm seems to already be trained enough, at least on sports cards, vintage sports cards to be specific, in order to be able to render grades on them. So that's pretty neat. But the problem is that PSA doesn't just grade sports cards anymore. They grade tons of other cards. And so as a result, even if Genamint is fully able to grade vintage baseball cards, they will still need to train this algorithm to be able to accommodate trading card games like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, as well as Magic. And then, of course, they'll also have to consider other sports cards, which are probably another huge part of their overall customer base for things like hockey, baseball, basketball, etc., etc. And so what I assume is going to happen is over a period of time, PSA will begin using digital scans of cards that they have graded in the past. They will train the algorithm by seeing what the algorithm grades, comparing it to the human grade, and then validating and letting the algorithm know where it disagrees and where it agrees. That's going to help the algorithm learn, and over time, they're then going to be able to train these algorithms to more consistently and uniformly apply PSA's grading standards. At that point, all they're going to have to do is invest in some visioning technology. Think of it like a very high-resolution scanner available at every single one of the desks where a grader sits, and then the grader simply has to take the card out of the slab or sleeve or whatever have you, place it front, place it back, let it scan, and then a grade will automatically be rendered. I assume at that point the grader simply validates what he or she is seeing and whether or not they disagree. Typically with algorithmic output, you also have the ability to subjectively override. So for example, if the card is saying eye appeal isn't there, but the grader holding it in their hands sees that eye appeal is there, they may then subjectively override that. And then typically what'll happen is you'll be asked to enter in some sort of justification on your work computer. And so there's tons of different ways they can go about it, but for the future, I think this is really powerful for a variety of reasons. One, there is the argument, and Genamint has been quoted in one capacity or the other, saying effectively, this type of technology will fingerprint your cards for you. So every card, no two cards are exactly alike. And so as a result of that, you do get sort of a generation of a digital fingerprint here. The scans create a digital fingerprint that's probably then stored and logged. What this means is that crack and resubmits could theoretically no longer be a thing, because what'll happen is, as you try to crack and resubmit, whenever your grader puts it on the scanner again, Genamint algorithm is going to pick it up and say, no, we've already graded this card, here's what it got graded as. Or the other thing that could play out is that maybe they don't keep those digital fingerprints, but instead the machine is just so good that it picks up the exact same features and renders the exact same grade. Either way, the functional output of the algorithm is going to be a consistent score that does not change whether you crack and resubmit or whether you're submitting for the first time. The other major implication here is that with this technology now, PSA's future certifications are theoretically going to be algorithmically validated. And so as a result of that, there may be some sort of shift in the way that we look at cert numbers. Of course, many people say 0 and 1 starting certs are, some of the worst because PSA was especially still figuring out a lot of the different stuff. And then other people make the argument that, it doesn't matter. PSA has a price match guarantee and a money back guarantee on all their grades. So whether you got it graded with a 0, a 1, a 5, or a 4, it doesn't matter. It's still a PSA 10. I'm personally of that camp, but I do think it would be cool for you to be able to submit already graded cards and see what the algorithm would have come back as well. And if the algorithm also grades at a PSA 10, maybe you get like a little check mark or a 10 plus or a little green sticker on your label that says, this is an older cert but has been algorithmically validated. So these are some of the, things that I think they could possibly do with this technology now. And I think, for the most part, the future is looking really, really good if you've been a PSA loyalist, because I think this acquisition especially creates some really powerful technology and also gives PSA tons of scale and tons of scales of economy in order to pull off some really neat stuff in the future. So with that said, friends, I think I'm going to stop talking now. Obviously, I could gush about this all day, and that's mainly because I am I work in data analytics, and so algorithms are no foreign concept to me, and I have a feeling that this machine visioning software is exactly that. So I'm super excited about it. Like I said, I think if you've been a longtime fan of PSA, this has some dramatic implications, and I think PSA and BGS and CGC definitely either have to do some catching up, or they really have to kind of begin offering something that's going to help differentiate them. Because once PSA has all of this additional space and the algorithm backing their grading process, it's going to be a huge gap to jump. And PSA is going to really stand out as the market leader now more than ever, because not only are they embracing efficient customer service, but on top of everything else, now they're embracing technology. And that's a very powerful combination that really sort of defines you and kind of gives you a unique identity in the industry. So I think for the most part, CGC and BGS are definitely going to have to step their games up or do something. The other big thing is that, for PSA, they've kind of gone through their darkest days at this point. I will note that, services are suspended until July 1st, but I have a feeling by July 1st, they're going to be doing a lot of work on the back end to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Other companies are probably still in the situation where they're going to go there. Ironically enough, I think this might have even been a business ploy by PSA, because if you think about it, they suspend their services, and so everybody bum rushes CGC. CGC just opened a year ago, so they're not seasoned, nor can they handle that much capacity. And so CGC gets inundated, and even though CGC is going to make a lot of money on that, here's the problem. They're going to have to shut down. And because they're so small, they're going to have to dedicate a lot of business resources and a lot of strategic decision making in order to get back up. Meanwhile, in late 2021, PSA is going to be open. They're going to start their, algorithm pilot program. They're going to have new space in the States. They're going to have a huge California office. PSA is going to dominate. And this is me more subjectively gushing, but I genuinely think it's not going to surprise me if and when that happens, because it seems almost too good to be true the way things are kind of lining up for them. So, with that said, let me know what you guys think down below. Obviously, tons of news, tons of things to talk about and consider. It's the first time we've seen algorithms looked at and, may actually end up seeing it the world's first algorithmically graded trading card from PSA. So, big things happening. I'm super excited, but let me know down below, what do you think of all the news? Do you think PSA has been making as great a set of strides in terms of providing us more data and giving us more information? And with that said, friends, Thank you again for watching today's video. You could have been anywhere on the internet, but you chose to hang out with me, and that means the world. I greatly appreciate your time, and I'm glad you could spend some time checking out another video and learning a little bit more about this stuff. Other than that, friends, have a great day, enjoy your weekend, and we will talk soon. Peace.